Recording in progress.
Yes, here I am. And this broadcast is here and now. The regular weekly broadcasts of the Jewish Socialist Bund together with the Black Panther veteran Steve Struggle, who is occupied at the moment. I have a special broadcast to make today to you for your attention concerning Libya and the assassination of Saif Al-Islam Al-Kadaffi, which recently took place this week with the collaboration of some so-called intelligence agencies, likely a combined effort of the CIA, the military intelligence of the United Kingdom, and France as well, which played a role in the destruction of Libya to begin with the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi. Now, what this signifies is a regime change operation, basically. This is the assassination of the de facto president of Libya. Saif Al-Islam Al-Kadaffi had filed his candidature to be a presidential candidate in the upcoming Libyan elections, and his candidature was accepted. He was the popular favorite according to the polls, and the election was cancelled as a result. Now, if this is to mean anything, it would mean that the de facto president of Libya was Saif Al-Islam Al-Kadaffi. Considering the popularity of his thinking and administration, since he was the head of the infrastructure of Libya previously, and because he was part of the Jamaria, the collective society postulated by the Green Book theory of Muammar Gaddafi, which is calling for a civil society-controlled state, which is a contradiction in and of itself. But nonetheless, this is a demonstration in terms of the popularity of Saif al-Islam al-Kadaffi that the Gaddafi administration of Libya was not a dictatorship as alleged. It was not a genocidal regime as alleged by France and Sarkozy, who had previously accepted $30 million as a campaign contribution from Gaddafi, and then came to support the basically NATO or France and the United States assault upon Libyan defenses and overwhelmed and occupied Libya to this day. There is a National Transitional Council in operation, but obviously it is non-effective. I am speaking to you as a representative of the Jamaria. My position with the Jamaria was the international coordinator for North America, and then together with South America as well. When I came to speak at the Caracas conference during the Chavez administration, at the conference sponsored by Libya on the theme of direct democracy. And there I made a presentation of direct and parallel democracy, because I was taking into consideration the various national minorities that existed in the various Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries of South and Central America, who are not represented in the government and administration because they are precisely that, a minority. And they are precisely a minority because they were genocided by the occupation of the Spanish occupation, which reduced the population of the indigenous First Nations in North and South America to minority status, and resulted by means of a genocide, that is estimated at about 12 million indigenous South Americans and Central Americans massacred by the Spanish Empire, Spanish colonialism, the Spanish, and by origin, the Spanish Inquisition, whose first victim, of course, was the Jewish Spanish Sephardim, Spanish-speaking Latino, a Jewish Spanish dialect that was spoken by the Sephardim in Spain and Portugal, who were expelled or executed, even though they may have converted to Christianity under pressure. Now, it is important to take note of this assassination of Saif Al-Islam Al-Kadaffi, for the reason that we must focus our attention on the Jamaria and the model that are represented for not only Africa, but for the world, because it postulated a society administered by the civil society in the form of revolutionary committees. Now, these revolutionary committees still exist in Libya. They are an underground civil society administration that represent the Jamaria, which continues to struggle against the occupation, basically the siege of Libya, the total control of that country after Gaddafi even gave up the nuclear apparatus, nuclear enrichment process that was underway in Libya at the time. Gave this up, shipped out all of the equipment, and was resorted to by bombardment and assassination in a brutal fashion. So we must focus on the Jamaria, its example, continue its example in terms of struggle, because it was struggling for an international revolution against capitalism and for the liberation of the neo-colonies that were collected in Africa, and the liberation of the world from the American dollar, and an example of how to achieve self-sustainability in a country that was lacking water. Well, it took care of that problem and brought out the water of the aquifers, the primordial water, to enrich the earth and grow the food for the people so that they were self-sustaining and could not be sanctioned. Now, in order to preserve the heritage of the Jamaria, I have various evidence of its operation and its functioning and its propagation here with me, because I was in Tripoli 3 times. 1973, when I first made a presentation on the Jewish anti-Zionist position, which was adopted by then Saif Al-Islam Al-Kadaffi, who was sitting there in the front row taking notes, in which he later produced, together with his own independent research, and together with his father, Muammar, they produced the pamphlet called The White Book. And here it is. Let's see now if I can get this into focus here. Yeah, it has to be at the same distance as I am. Okay, here it is. The White Book, Le Livre Blanc. This is a French version, of course. And the title that he gave to the concept that was propagated here, which was a binational concept of Palestine, he gave it the name Isra'tin, from Palestine and Isra from Israel. It was just a conceptual name. It wasn't actually a proposition for renaming the country, as some people would like to ridicule the work as being. No, this is a conceptual work, a draft conceptual work. And it does provide the research into the heritage of the various theories of binationalism that were propagated by Arab writers, which is a concept, that was propagated in the Orient, because the Orient is accustomed to having multinational societies, unlike the West, which operates on the basis of the nation state. And that is precisely the problem with Zionism, because it adopts the European notion of the nation state propagated by Hegel in 1648 on behalf of the Prussian aristocracy, which was setting up its empire, its mini empire, which came to be called Germany. Okay. So, okay, well, I'll give you the table of contents here. It starts with description of Palestine. Then he talks about what it means to have a homeland for the Jewish people, which is not a state. In fact, homeland is a term used by the Balfour Declaration and by the subsequent Treaty of 1924, Ramio or something like that. And there again, mentions, a Jewish homeland in Palestine. In Palestine, it mentions Palestine, but doesn't mention any Israel. It doesn't mention any state. No, but the Zionists use that as a rationale for establishing a nation state, which is illegal, and is now contradicted by the two-state solution even of the United Nations. Now, the promise of Balfour is mentioned here, the oppression of the Jewish people. This is very important, from an Arab source, to recognize that the Jewish people are an oppressed nation. Smart, a lot of people don't, people don't realize, what Zionism is, because Zionism is not simply settler colonial movement. It uses the strategy of settler colonialism, but it began as a national liberation movement, but as a popular front with the national bourgeoisie of the Jewish people, of the Jewish nation, which perverted the whole project into a state sovereignty and to protect the national bourgeoisie, of course, and then to send off, the civilian population to kill and be killed. This continues on. The Arabs and the Jews again, and projects of creating a state. The British proposal, Newcombe proposal, the White Book of Britain in 1939. That's why this is called the White Book, because this is a counter-White Book to the White Book of England, which established the State of Israel. The project of Lord Morrison, Zionist propositions, Arab propositions as solutions. The Arab, political culture, offered solutions which were not adopted, of course, because only Zionism was supported by the imperial powers. The trouble and the danger of two states. Well, obviously, the problem with the two-state so-called solution is that the refugees are sort of dumped and not to be considered at all. The right of return of the Palestinian refugees is the fundamental criterion for any just solution. And if the right of return of the Palestinian refugees is not recognized and included in any solution, then it's not a solution and is to be judged in that context. That is why I wrote the book in Nablus, The Federation of Palestinian and Hebrew Nations, which is a transitional process, as in, the Trotskyist proposal for a transitional program, developed that into a methodology which deals with the recognition of Palestine in the occupied territories, post-67, moving into a confederation of the two entities, moving into a federation of peoples, not recognizing frontiers and not being a state, but being a binational civil society. Okay, the White Book of the Gaddafis continues on to Harkabi. Other solutions for the historic solution for Isra'tin is proposed here. And the certainty of the failure of sharing two states neighboring each other. It's not a solution. It doesn't work. If only for the reason that I gave you, that it doesn't include the right of the return of the Palestinian refugees. Now, here we get into historical analysis. The land of the ancestors, the promised land. It discusses what that means. And then a conclusion, okay? This is a valid, thoughtful, academic, and political work. Now, okay. Here are some images. from Libya that I preserved. This is a Libyan town. This is what ancient civilization looks like. This is the origin of civilization in towns like that. Here's a sticker on the 27th anniversary of the Libyan Revolution of 1969 and celebrating the achievement of water for all for free, right? From the desert aquifers. Here's a beautiful portrait. Let his image be preserved forever. There's the writing there. Okay, and then I have a large portrait of Gaddafi here as well. There's a bit of a glare here, yeah. But there it is. Preserved now. That's a good way to show Gaddafi. Okay. Okay. That's preserved. Now I have another object to show you as well. This is a stamp, a Libyan stamp made with Gaddafi's image. I mean, he got carried away, plastered his image all over the place. But here are the stamps, the Libyan stamps in a montage, commemorative stamp edition that I've preserved. And you notice it has the golden overlay of Gaddafi riding a horse, traditional Arabian horse. There, that's even better. So there's all the various components of the large stamp, and then here's the. I'll try to get some light onto the. There. Okay. Now, what is even more important is here's examples of the Revolutionary Committee movement. This is a publication that came out briefly called Liberation. And this particular edition talks about self-sufficiency. And direct democracy. And this was handed out en masse, at one point. I don't know if there's a date on this. No, but there's the English edition, and here's the French. This is the Revolutionary Committee movement here in Quebec that we were operating for a while. Okay. There. Now, now people want a copy of the White Book. I have copies in French only, but I'm sure that a lot of people are bilingual, and if they want a copy of the White Book in French from Saif Al-Islam Al-Kadaffi, then just send me an email with an address to mail it to, and I'll do that for free. And my email address is SAALAHA circle A FOKUS dot NAME. Okay, next topic. I have a share here. This is, and I don't think this is AI. This is too real, too true to be unreal. Okay. Let's see now. Here it is.
Get your filthy hands off of me! You hear me? You're gonna pay for this! You don't know who you're messing with!
You're so big and bad, stop hiding behind masks.
Hey, helmet's coming off. Don't touch...
Yeah, there it is. Eyes forward. Keep moving.
You're dead, you hear me? All of you!
Walk.
Get your filthy hands off of me! You hear me? You're gonna pay for this! You don't know who you're messing with!
You're so big and bad, stop hiding behind masks.
Hey, helmet's coming off. Don't touch...
Yeah, there it is. Eyes forward. Keep moving.
You're dead, you hear me? All of you!
Walk.
Get your filthy hands off of...
You're so big and bad, stop hiding behind masks.
Hey, helmet's coming off. Don't touch...
Yeah, there it is. Eyes forward. Keep moving.
You're dead, you... Get your filthy hands off of me!
Yeah. Well, that's how you take care of ICE. You know, they want to use force. They think force makes them right. Well, let's see what happens when force is used against them. I guess that means that they were rightfully arrested, and by the police, no less. NYPD. They must have some pride left there. And New York is safe with the election of Zohar Mamdani. And, you know, there's going to be a sort of a civil war between Trump and Mamdani. Trump is going to try to cut off the funding of New York City, federal funding to New York City. Oh yeah, well, that's not legal. That's another sort of, you know, charge, you know, with which to bring against him for impeachment proceedings. You know, you can have various charges, such as racism, corruption, embezzlement. What is it called? Obstruction of the court. Yes. Judicial obstruction, etc., etc. Okay. That's ICE. Next item. United Kingdom. The British Labour Party is destroyed. They're the government right now, but now the government's destroyed because they endorsed, you know, this Zionist operative, you know, to be the United Kingdom ambassador to the United States, who used all of the information he got from the United Kingdom, passed it on, you know, to Epstein, and passed it on to the Mossad. This is all revealed now in the current documentation that has come out about Epstein. So Starmer, who's the hatchet man who got rid of Corbyn as the leader of the Labour Party and expelled him on the charge of anti-Semitism, supposedly, now his association with the Zionists is coming back to stab him in the heart. He's dead. You know, he's begging, you know, for compassion from the public, you know, saying that he was misled by this guy who lied to him. Oh yeah, well, the only person he lied to is himself. Really. So, you know, like, that Labour Party government is finished. It's lost its, you know, public credibility. And the alternative parties, the Workers' Party with Corbyn, and hopefully they'll get it together there, you know, into United Front. Problem is, you know, they have some, you know, big shot, you know, talking heads like Galloway, who are trying to establish their own party, you know, for their own selves, you know, so they could be the leader of the party. You know, seems to be a large part of the reason why they're mouthing off. So I don't trust Galloway to that extent, because he's just mouthing, cliches and talking points. But Corbyn, has an analytical sort of aspect to him that would be very sort of important as a prime minister. One would look forward, to the Workers' Party with Corbyn as the primary candidate, to assume the government, together with some dissident Labour Party members, who are already, elected to the House of Commons. Something to look forward to. Together with the Insoumis, the new Popular Front of France, that is the largest political party there, despite, the lies of the corporate media, which claim that the fascist party or the right centrist party, called the Rassemblement National, the RN now, with Le Pen, is the largest political party in France. It's not true. That's a lie. Largest political party by vote in the last election for the presidential, for the general elections, was the new Popular Front. And they should have been chosen to lead the government, but they weren't. So, the government there is frozen, paralyzed, until possible next election, if there's going to be a next election. In any case, that's the same question, that is up for consideration in the United States as well. The Zelensky effect, would be easily sort of, taken up by Trump if he could get away with it, declaring that if there was a state of war, that he wouldn't have to have an election. So, because people would, might get upset, with having another war dropped on their head. So, that's the way it is here and now, today. And this is, just to be diligent and get things organized, more organized. This is the 9th of February, 2026. And we'll be back in the coming week. Bye for now.